and welcome to lesson 16 of this Elizabeth I GCSE lesson series. This lesson focuses on poverty in Elizabethan England and most specifically the reasons why poverty increased during Elizabethan times. You need to be on page 38 of your lesson notes booklet, which you should be able to find in Class Charts Pod. It might have been emailed directly to you, or you know where it is. There's a link to it in a description at the bottom of this video. So, without further ado, let us begin. First thing you are going to do is focus on a little bit of an inference task. What does this source suggest about why poverty increased in the Elizabethan period? So what can we infer from this source about why poverty increased in the Elizabethan period? Remember, we make an inference about what the source suggests, and then we support that inference with some sort of direct link, some direct quote from the source itself. So I'm going to pause this, have a little go, and then we'll come back and see what you've come up with. Okay, let's have a look at this then. It's from an Ian Mortimer's Time Traveller's Guide to Elizabethan England, so it's not a primary source. It's somebody's interpretation, but we use it to get us started on the reasons why poverty increased, see what we can infer from it. So it says the destruction of arable fields and villages is a profound worry to the families who are evicted. It is equally worrying to the authorities in those towns where the homeless husbandmen, that's farmers, land workers, go begging. The gradual loss of land to the working man and his family may fairly be described as the second greatest single cause of unrest during the reign, second only to religion. So we can infer something quite clearly from this source about the reasons for increasing poverty, and that is pressure on the land. So it talks about the destruction of arable fields and villages and people being evicted. So we can infer from that that people were losing their livelihoods. It talks about the gradual loss of land to the working man, which caused a lot of unrest. And it talks about the fact that in towns there was a lot of homelessness and people were begging. That was because they had lost their land. So we can infer quite clearly from this source that one of the key reasons for increasing poverty was the loss of land, the destruction of arable fields, the eviction of the people who either were the land um, owners or people most probably who rented the land from landowners, and that loss of land to the working man and his family caused a great deal of economic upset and caused a lot of poverty. Okay, so if you turn to this page in your lesson notes booklet, you will find that on page 39 of your booklet, it gives you some reasons why poverty increased. And you are going to use the information that's in your booklet that looks a lot like this. So you've got this page, first of all, with the maps of the enclosed land, and you've got a graph about population there. And you've also got this page as well, which goes into more depth about population increase and use of the land, etc. So you need to use that information to collect evidence to support the different reasons for poverty increasing. So you've got those different reasons in your notes template. You can either collect this evidence and put it under those readings on the booklet, or you can do it on a separate bit of paper, but you're trying to get some knowledge to go with the reasons so that you'd be able to explain why poverty increased during the Elizabethan period. So pause this now, use the information to do that. Okay, welcome back. So we could probably boil down why poverty increased, why there were more poor people, into four different areas that link with the headings that you got. You looked at population increase and enclosure and cost of land and cost of food and improved farm techniques. All of these things come together. You should have collected evidence to explain each of them, but they all come together to lead to increased poverty because of their interconnectedness. So, for example, population rises, it grows by 35%. And that's population increase all over the place, but especially in towns and cities, it grew fast. If you've got more people, then that means that you've got more people to feed. You need to have a bigger harvest because you need to feed those people. So when there were bad harvests and grain prices rose, then bread prices rose. This made food harder to afford. And a larger population meant more workers, and so employers could pay lower wages. So higher population increased demand for land, so landowners could increase rents. So the cost of living is going up at the same time as the population is going up. But the wages that people are paid is not going up, it's not increasing at the same amount as the cost of living is increases. The price to rent some land, the price for some bread is increasing faster than wages are. That makes people poor. Also, English wool and woolen products accounted for over 80% of England's exports. So the economy was hugely dependent on wool. It wasn't a very diversified economy. So because there was lots of demand for this, the price increased. So sheep farming became very popular. If you get a load of money for wool, then if you have lots of sheep on your farm, it means you can make lots of money from selling that wool. That meant that landowners thought, I know how we can make loads more money. We can have more sheep. So therefore we can enclose land that would normally have been used to grow crops on, and we'll have sheep on it instead. So when you enclose that land, and the common land that ordinary people used to enjoy and used to be able to use was reduced, that meant poor people couldn't graze their own animals on farmland, and that made it harder for them to live. They didn't have little patches of land where they could just graze their own livestock and live in a self-sufficient type of way. So enclosure of land led to increased poverty because ordinary farm labourers, or those who could not afford increased rents, suffered. The most effective way of growing crops and sheep farming required less labor, so you've got better farming techniques, you can do things better, you don't need as many laborers, you can do it more efficiently without, which means that the laborers aren't getting paid wages, which means that they're not buying products, and they don't have the wages to be able to buy the products, which means that they are poorer. With increased population and less labor, that led to wage decreases. So you've got all these things coming together: the enclosure of land, the increased population, some bad harvests, some over-reliance on the wool trade. All of this led to more people being poor in Elizabethan England. So this increased poverty led to some changing attitudes of what to do with these poor people, and it led to some changes in the attitudes towards people who were seen as being deserving poor and those who were seen to be undeserving poor. And that is the subject of the next lesson. But we can see from this overview of the course, we're looking at problems of the poor, which is the second set of bullet points on the final section of the course. We are not too far away from having completed the Elizabethan course. So just a few more lessons and you will have covered all the major content of the Elizabeth I course. The most important thing to take away from this lesson are the reasons why poverty increased that we've discussed, and that you're able to explain them, because there is a good chance that if they're going to ask a 12-mark question, that this particular topic, why did poverty increase, lends itself quite nicely to a 12-mark question. Explain why poverty increased. Explain why there were more poor people in Elizabethan England. And so that brings us to the end of lesson 16. And in the next lesson, we will look at the things that Elizabethans did to try and deal with the problem of poverty, before we then move on to look at exploration and the establishment of colonies during Elizabeth's reign as we enter the last little section of the Elizabeth I course. So, I hope you have got some good notes. I hope you've got some understanding of why there was increased poverty in Elizabethan England. Until next time, stay safe, take care, goodbye.